It's the Adventureland Moms Podcast with your guides, Becca and Michaelyn.
Welcome to the third episode of the Adventureland Moms Podcast. I'm your co-host, Becca, and I am joined by Michaelyn from the Mouse Tools Mom, who is your other co-host.
Hi!
Today we wanted to talk about how young is too young for Disneyland. Everything else that goes along with that. I'm in a Moms and Multiples group. There's a lot of people in my area and Utah and stuff in this group. So Disneyland is a big destination for them. And people always ask, oh, should I take my kids to Disney? Should I go down to Disneyland with them? And they all say, don't take your kids to Disney. They're too young. Wait till they're older. I hate it. So, Michaelyn, what are your thoughts on it?
I am probably a very biased person to ask that question. I took my son to Disneyland. He was about a month old, I think maybe a month and a half. He, I think, was the youngest one that we took to Disneyland, if I'm not mistaken, which I might be, but I think he was the youngest. The other ones were about 5 months when we took them to Disneyland for the first time. I know that there's been a lot of hubbub and to-do about the shots, so being important that they have their shots. I think it's up until about 1 year, right? Isn't it a year?
It depends what shots. I think the measles, when that happened, I think that was a year.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, obviously who choose to wait that first year, and I'm not against that. Had the measles outbreak happened when my son was, little, I definitely would have held back on taking him. But it came pretty much right after he turned 1. So I was like, oh, we're in the clear. We got all of our measles shots. We're good to go. But yeah, what do you think, Becca?
I'm pretty biased too. The goof, we waited till he was 10 months. The twins were 3 months, their first trip. And that was after the measles outbreak. It was the very next year. We took them again at 6 months old. I think that you're never too young for Disney, but there's a lot of things to consider with it. Like, we haven't gone to Disney World specifically because that's going to be a once or twice in a lifetime trip. So there, I do want my kids to be old enough to remember it and maybe do more of the rides. Whereas Disneyland, we're going to go often enough that they'll get to go again, so it's okay if they don't remember that first or that second trip. They're going to go at some point where they can remember it. I think you need to take that into consideration. I also think that, you can't stop traveling just because you have kids if that's what you love to do. So we love Disney, and so we don't stop going to it just because we have babies in tow. It is a different experience with babies and toddlers, but it isn't a bad experience. In fact, I think it made our trips better to have little kids with us. So
it definitely adds a whole new aspect of fun. You have gone to the parks yourself before and you've seen everything, but now you get to see it through their eyes. That's part of the magic of Disney, really, right there. Seeing it with a baby, it's maybe a little different. They're usually exploring Mickey's nose. Like when they go see the character, that nose has had to have been slobbered on so many times. Like, I can't even, and Pluto's nose too. But yeah, so beware if you're a germaphobe, don't touch the nose. Definitely a different experience with babies. And I don't know how you feel, but I always hear people telling me, they're never going to remember this. They're never going to remember this. They're a year old, they're a month old, they're 2 years old, whatever it is. They're never going to remember it. So wait until they can remember it. But everyone's life is always centered around their kids. Maybe this is one thing that you want to go, that you want to remember it. It doesn't necessarily have to be their memory. It's yours too. You're going too. You paid for the trip. If you want to remember taking your baby to go and slobber on Mickey Mouse's nose, then that's what you get to remember. That's your memory. Your kid might not have that, but maybe they want the pictures later on of them slobbering on Mickey's nose. You don't know. But I just think more people should consider themselves a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying be selfish, but maybe a little bit is okay,
Exactly. And it's not like you're paying for the baby to get in. I mean, your kids are free until they're 3 years old. So you're not paying any extra to take them. And they will have fun. And I think it's actually a really magical time for them before they can remember it. Because I remember when the Goof was 18 months old on that trip, and we went to the Disney Junior live on stage, and it was like the only show he had watched on TV was Mickey Mouse Clubhouse at that point in his life. And there was Mickey Mouse Clubhouse right there in front of him. And for all he knew, that was the actual Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. You know, they're little, they believe in all that stuff. They think they don't understand everything that's going on behind the scenes. You know, the other thing is you don't know what age they're going to start remembering things, because the Goof, okay, so we've gone a lot. So he went right before he turned 2, and he talked about that trip for the next 7 or 8 months. So he remembered a lot of it. Not everything, but there were things he remembered. He remembered meeting Mickey Mouse. He remembered the teacups, and there was a couple other rides that he remembered and he would talk about. So you don't know for sure that they're not going to remember it. So let's talk about some things that are good to know when you are taking babies, and maybe like any tips or tricks we might have, and then we'll get into some things like gear that you should be bringing and that kind of stuff. So let's start with the fact that there are baby centers in Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, and at Walt Disney World too, but we're not talking about them.
I'm talking about you in Florida. No, you can do your own weird thing.
So there are baby centers, and they're actually more baby toddler centers, I would say, because they have, you know, high chairs, and they have little potties that get sanitized and everything, and they have diaper changing stations, and they sell some baby stuff. And I have a story about that I'll tell you in a minute, but they have stuff there, and it's a nice, cool place. You can go. They have nice chairs that you can use to nurse in. So if it's really hot and you need to get out of the heat, you can go in there and nurse, or give your baby a bottle. Do you use the baby centers at all?
We do. We use those for diaper changing. We actually will plan our trips so that we head up to the hub, and then we'll head this way and back in to change diapers, and then we'll go this way and back in to change diapers. That is just the most spacious, least crowded area to change your diapers in. The bathrooms can get quite crowded, and there's a line that'll, you know, you have to wait to go, and it's not a nice padded, cushiony changing table for the kids either. It's just your, you know, usual countertop that's made, you know, a little bit of a wall so your baby won't roll off. But you know, the changing tables in the baby care centers are really nice and padded, and there's always nice people in there ready to help you if you forgot your diapers or your formula or whatever else you forgot. They have it there. They've got like everything there. It's incredible. They really do a very good job of supplying everything you would need for baby.
So with the twins, we did not use the baby centers very often because they, and I don't even remember with the Goof, because we rarely used them with the Goof too. But they, at least when we were there, you couldn't take, you know, your strollers in to the baby center. I have 2 babies. I have 2 babies, people. I need to take my stroller in with me. So anyways, but we got to Disney California Adventure, and it was at night, and there was a Halloween party going on across over at Disneyland. And one of the babies was poopy, and I realized I had left the diapers. I went in, and so I bought some diapers, and we thought we were going to be there a lot longer than we actually ended up being there for that night. So I bought, I can't remember, I think 6 diapers, and I think they were about like 75 cents a piece, which is really expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, they were good diapers. They were like Huggies, like super absorbent, little snugglers or something like that. But they were expensive. They were like 75 cents a piece. And so we ended up only using like 1 or 2, but we held on to those freaking diapers forever and made sure to use them because those were the most expensive diapers. And we joked that that was the baby's souvenirs. That trip was that they got to have some Disneyland diapers. But it was.
Okay. You didn't frame them and put them on the wall? It's like a souvenir.
It's like 75 cents each. And I think the lady, like when she found out I had twins, I think she even gave me a discount on them. Like, so it ended up costing me like 50 cents each, but that's still expensive for diapers. But when you forget diapers or you run out, it's nice that Disney has those available for you, and you know, formula and everything else too. So it's good. It's nice, and it's good to know that they're there. See, I could have totally freaked out and be like, oh, now we gotta go all the way back to the hotel or go to Target and buy some diapers, but I knew that was there, so I didn't freak out too much until I saw the price. So
A little sticker shock for you.
yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Another thing about that is that they sell the formula, and they will sell them in like pre-mixed bottles, like the little ones, but they also sell the canisters. But problem with the canister is then you're going to need some water to go with it. They have tap water there. They have water bottles and things like that. But that kind of goes along to say that if you are packing for the parks, you might want to actually bring that water bottle so that you can mix the bottles and such. I know not everyone wants to tote it around with them. That's fine. You can put it in the bottom of a stroller like I do. You stick it in a locker. Lots of options, but just throwing it out there might be something you want to do. Bring your own water.
Yeah. And if you bring it your own, then you know it's warm to mix with the formula. So because all the water, even the bottled water they sell at the parks, I think almost all of it is in ice, so it's going to be kind of cold. Now, if you run out, buy a bottled water and let it sit in the stroller and get warm in the sun. But yeah, we bring bottled water for mixing with formula. When we had the twins, we took them. And the other great thing about Disney is that they do have changing stations in all their bathrooms, both men's and women's. So don't let dad tell you that he can't change the diaper, because he can.
Yeah, no cheating. No cheating, dads.
Yeah.
We're sending that baby in with you.
Exactly. Well, see, that works out great because we have two babies, so we just each took one. So the next tip that I think we need to cover if you're going with babies is the parent swap. Because if you're going with older kids and they can go on some of the bigger rides, they are going to want to do that. They're not going to want to just go on the little kid rides the whole time. And so parent swap is a great feature for that. And do you utilize the parent swap?
All the time. All the time. We love it. Having as many kids as we do and as little parents as we do. We very often use the parent swap, and our kids love it. It gets a little complicated now, actually, because with the parent swap, you get a pass, and it says that you can swap parents who go on the ride after you wait in line with your little one, and then they give you this card or a ticket or a piece of paper, and then you can then take this paper and give it to your spouse or another adult who can then go on this ride with your child. Well, when you have more than one child, you're allowed to take 2 kids with you for this pass. So if you have 3 kids who can go on the ride, sometimes they'll fudge it and they'll let you take 3 kids. Other times it doesn't work out. There's not enough space in the vehicle, or, you know, there's just a lot of other people in line. They won't let you take 3 kids back on. So it gets a little hairy there when some kids can go back on a second time and some kids can't. But other than that, it's a great tool. We use it all the time. It's a really nice way to get the kids back on the ride sooner.
The first time we went with the goof at 10 months old, we took my husband's niece. And so she got to ride everything twice. And then a couple years later, we took his niece and his nephew. And that was back when you could only take 1 extra person back on with you before they upped it to allowing 3 people on and only let 2 people on. And so what we would do is one of us would go with one of them, and then we'd switch who went. And while others were on the ride, then usually there is a little kid-friendly ride near all these bigger rides. So like while they were doing Star Tours or Space Mountain, we would be doing Buzz Lightyear, or while they're doing Splash Mountain, we do Winnie the Pooh and that kind of stuff. So that the others didn't just have to sit there and wait, because that first, especially the first person going on, if it can sometimes, it can take a while. So that's what we do to kind of make it so, especially, you know, like if you have too many people that can't go, you know, everyone can't go back on. And then the other thing is, I think people need to know about the parent swap is it is important that you not like split up before you go. Like normally the parent swaps are used on rides that have fast pass, but you need to take everyone with you to the entrance, because sometimes they'll ask to see the person that's sitting out and the child they're sitting out with. And not every ride does that, but some of them do, and some of them don't do it. And then the next time you go, they will. It just depends on the crowds and, you know, if they think they've seen you before. So if you go on, so if you're repeating the same ride a few times in the same day, they're, you know, because you might have a kid that wants to do that, they might start to question this. And so just plan to have everyone walk up to where you enter. And it's not always the first person that gives you the parent swap, but always ask the very first cast member you come to and say, I need to do a parent swap. Because I think Splash Mountain, the first cast member, I think, gives it to you because they give it to the other person so that it doesn't get soaked. And then I think Space Mountain, they've wanted to see, they've always asked to see. So just plan on it so that you don't have to, you know, be disappointed at the end and not be able to swap. And then I also have a really cool trick that we do. So we're calling it like parent swap, but it's rider switch pass is what it's called at the parks. So I was going to say, there's a way you can also kind of cheat the system. And we use parent swap or rider switch pass so that we can fast pass more than one ride at a time. Because what we do is we normally have an even number of tickets. And so we'll like say it's 4 people. 2 people will fast pass Splash Mountain and 2 people will fast pass Thunder Mountain. And then we'll get the rider switch pass so that the other people that didn't have the fast passes can go on. And then we'll do the same thing with the other ride. So we kind of use that. It's totally legit, but it's 100% legit.
Eating, it's not. It's just, you know, being creative with the way that you do your rider switch passes. That's all.
Exactly. It's 100% legit, but it kind of gets us around that you may only fast pass one ride at a time. So there's an advantage right there to taking little kids with you, is that you can make your fast passes work a lot better for you.
Yeah, I'm kind of dreading the point in time when my kids aren't young enough to warrant a rider switch pass. I'm like, Liam, stay little, like, or Molly, like one of the 2 of you, like, stay really little. But yeah, they're quickly aging out of that. So.
And it also is for maybe kids that are too scared to go on rides too. So I just want to put that out there. It doesn't have to be that you have a baby or toddler. I mean, obviously, if you're saying your 20-year-old doesn't want to go out and it's a perfectly healthy, like, self-sufficient 20-year-old, you can't go. My 20-year-old doesn't want to go and my husband's going to sit out with him. They're not going to buy that. But it doesn't have to be a kid that's not tall enough. It can be a kid that maybe might be afraid of a certain ride too. So just to make sure that that's clear. So you brought up a good point about wanting your kids to stay little. And I have to say, I want my kids to stay little so I can have a stroller in the park. Because without a stroller, who's going to have to carry all the crap that we take? It's not going to be the kids.
No, mom's the pack mule. Mom is always the pack mule. That's just how it works.
Yep, mom and dad. Mom and dad will have to carry all that crap. And we take a lot of crap. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about having a stroller. Don't get me wrong. I love when I go without kids and I can ditch the stroller. But I love that a stroller can carry all my stuff for me.
Well, you know, when you go without the kids, you don't actually have all the crap that you usually have.
But let's get into that. Let's talk about what are some of our favorite like baby gear items and stuff to bring to the park. And so Obviously, if you have a kid, and I'm going to go out on the limb here and say, if you have a kid that's like 8 or under, you might want to think about bringing a stroller. And I know 8 sounds really, really old to be in a stroller. You're walking up to like 10 miles a day sometimes. Maybe not quite that much if you're pretty laid back, but our family, we like run back and forth, and we're like all over the parks and going between the 2 parks and hitting up downtown Disney. And so we get 8 to 10 miles a day. And then we also walk from the parks to the parking structure. We don't take the trams or anything. And so you're adding that on and walking to and from there. And so that's a lot of walking for a little kid. And
yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah,
I do. I agree. Strollers are important as long as your kids will sit in them. That's kind of also the thing is they get older and they don't really want to sit in them all the time. They think they're independent, but they end up on dad's shoulders by the end of the afternoon. But yeah, the stroller is definitely a good one for as long as you can keep them in it.
Unless, I mean, if you only have 1 or 2 kids, or if you're willing to put them on your shoulders, like we don't take a stroller for the goof, and because we have the twins now, and I'm not going to get a triple stroller. So he does walk, and then he gets put on shoulders. But we also take baby carriers, because then we can put a baby in a carrier, and then he can get in the stroller that way. So let's talk about that. Baby carrier versus stroller. So I just want to point this out is remember that a lot of the crowds at Disneyland are locals that may only be there for a few hours. So don't feel bad when you see this family wearing their babies, no stroller in sight. Does not make you less of a parent. But so baby carrier or stroller? What's your thoughts?
Okay. I am not a huge baby wearer. I have done it, in the past. I've done it and I have taken it to Disneyland. My kids aren't always very content in the baby carrier, and I will tell you that I'm pretty sure it's because I sweat like the dickens if I'm holding them too long. Like, sweat like the dickens. It is not just because it's hot outside. It's just body on body heat. No matter what you do and how breathable the carrier is, I am hot all the time. It's sickening, really, how hot I am all the time. Just dying. So when you go to Disneyland in August and you decide to take your 3-year-old and put your 1-year-old in the carrier and you walk around Disneyland with this baby, I mean, we were all dying. Like, my 3-year-old was exhausted. The baby was just whining and sweaty and would not take a nap on me at all. It was probably one of the more difficult trips I've taken. So if you're going to baby wear and you don't usually baby wear and you know that you get really hot very quickly, maybe don't do it in August. That's my suggestion to you. But if you do it all the time and you're one of those people who is not like me and you're not constantly drenched in sweat, then, that's totally cool. Go, have your beautiful baby wearing day around Disneyland. There are definitely great benefits to baby wearing at Disneyland, which I'm sure you're aware of. But for instance, getting into shops on Main Street in particular, I experienced issues with a single stroller. Having also gone with a double stroller side by side, that's an even bigger issue. These doorways were not built for the size strollers that we have now. So getting in and out of these stores is just about impossible, and you have to find the specific door that is big enough to let you in, but then you also have to find a way out, and maneuvering around all the stuff, the wonderful, beautiful items that they want to sell you in these stores. Maneuvering said stroller around is ridiculous. It's so hard. So baby wearing in that situation is great, or at least having another adult who can stay outside of the shops with the stroller or the baby.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
You mentioned maneuvering around all the items. It's not just that; it's maneuvering around them far enough away from them that your kids can't reach out and grab all the breakables as you walk by and knock them on the floor. Yeah, I have to agree. My husband's one of those people that sweats a lot, and then he's a space heater. Our oldest is a space heater. Our twins aren't that bad, but yeah, he does that a lot. But we do both at the parks. We're not locals, so when we go all day. So we need that stroller. We're not gonna wear our kids all day, but we also like to wear them. Like, it's great for when you're in line, and you can keep them on most rides. You can wear them. So you have to wear them on your front though, just to clarify. But if you're wearing them on your front, you can keep them on you on a lot of rides. So that's pretty nice. And then we also like take picnic stuff, and we use the picnic area, and it's really nice to load everything into the stroller and just wear the babies on the, like, if we take the tram or if we're walking, so we don't have to carry our picnic stuff with us. We can put it on the stroller and then we push it there, and then we can switch when we get to the picnic area. I definitely wouldn't go without a stroller if you're going all day. Like, I have a lot of local friends, and they do go for an hour or two here, and they don't take a stroller, and that's fine because they're not there very long. But if you're going all day, just take the stroller. I'm just gonna throw this out there, is that there are companies around Disneyland that do rent strollers, and they're nice strollers that they rent. We always use City Stroller Rentals. There are other companies, but that's the one I always suggest. It's the one I advertise on my blog because she does great service. And they also rent like pack and plays and high chairs and those kind of things, so that saves you a lot of room. If you're driving or if you're flying, you don't have to take all that stuff and gate check it. So look into that. And yes, you can also rent at Disney, but I'm going to tell you, like, her prices usually meet or beat Disney's, and you get a little bit better stroller. But so the next baby item I want to talk about that you need, that is a great thing to bring, is if you are bottle feeding, I strongly suggest you invest in some of the Playtex drop-in bottles and try and get your kids on those before you go on a trip, because you don't want to have to try and find somewhere to rinse out and wash, or, let's be honest, who really washes the bottles every single time? To rinse out the bottles so they don't get grody.
Yeah, you can tell we're like moms of multiples, that we don't just have one kid, we have lots of kids. So.
Yeah, but you don't want to have to do that. And with the Playtex drop-ins, you just take out the liner, throw it away. If you need to, you rinse the nipple out in a drinking fountain or in the sink, or even with your water bottle.
I also do, just for the sake of traveling with formula, we like those little canisters. They're about like yay big, they're round, they have a little top that turns, and they have like 3 different compartments, so you can scoop your formula in. You don't have to carry a whole can. You just have this little thing, and you just dump it into a bottle and you shake it up and done.
Yep. Okay, so we talked about, our thoughts on whether kids are too young and a few tips and things, and then baby gear. Now, I just want to cover is the next thing I hear from people is there's nothing for babies to do at Disneyland. And this one drives me nuts. And I'm not just talking babies, okay? My twins are 18 months. I still call them babies. They're still babies in my eyes. So we're talking like babies, toddlers. So these are people telling moms that have 2 or 3-year-olds, there's nothing they can do. And I like seriously like was angry on this one thread because in this group, because someone told someone that almost every ride has a height requirement of 42 inches. I'm like, no, most rides don't have a height requirement, and the ones that do are usually 40 inches or below. There's not very many that you have to be 42 inches or taller. But so let's just talk about what there is for babies to do at Disneyland.
I mean, obviously Fantasyland is pretty much, it is all baby rides. You can go on those with babies. The dark rides may scare some babies who are at that age where you get a little scared, maybe like 9 months or so, where you start to get a little afraid. But that is totally all baby friendly. But We even skipped Fantasyland a lot when my oldest was younger, and we opted for Adventureland. Tiki Room, Jungle Cruise, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, that whole row right there. Everything is totally baby friendly in that whole area. That's
Yeah.
I mean,
except for Indiana Jones. That's the only one that
yeah.
you can't take a baby on. So yeah, I agree. I will say California Adventure, that one seems a little less baby and toddler friendly, just because there's a lot less rides they can do. But they do have like the Disney Junior show, and they have Monsters Inc. and there's shows and stuff. I think it's a little hard for a baby to sit through like
The
Frozen Live, or, and they're not going to want to wear the 3D glasses at any of the 3D shows probably.
That's true. That is very true. But they do have a lot of other fun things that you can do with California Adventure, and it isn't always about the rides. And, like you said, there's shows, there's parades, there's evening shows, even just walking in and out of the shops. I mean, as long as your kid's not swiping the whole, shelf off onto the floor, all the breakables. But, there's like little displays with Mickey and Minnie, and of course, character meet and greets. All the character meet and greets that they have around there. They have so many. It does irk me a little when they say there's nothing for babies to do. There is quite a bit for babies to do.
And I do want to point out Bugs Land is perfect for toddlers. They have a splash pad there. They have a lot of rides. There's only one ride with a height requirement, and that's the like bumper car type ride. And I think that was 36 inches, if I remember correctly. It's a small kind of like more confined area, I would say. It's kind of out of the way. You don't get a lot of people walking through there. The rides usually don't have a very long wait, but it's a good little area in California Adventure. There is more that they can do than there is that they cannot do. So it's just misconception. Is there anything else you want to talk about with taking babies and toddlers and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know if there's something else I want to say, but I realized that we forgot like the main detriment of bringing a stroller to Disneyland is getting it on and off the modes of transportation, like the tram or the monorail or the train.
Okay. We should talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay. So it doesn't matter where we stay when we go to Disneyland. We always go to the Mickey and Friends parking structure simply because if you take the tram, you can ride in the first row of the last car of the tram or the first row in the first car of the tram without having to fold your stroller up. You do have to take your kids out of the stroller because that's a safety issue, but you do not have to fold it up. And I will tell you, we prefer to go to the back because the front first goes to anyone in wheelchairs, as it should. But the back one, we go there. Now, we started walking all the time because mostly at night we walk back. Sometimes we'll ride the tram in the morning, but mostly at night we walk back because the line for that spot on the tram gets so long from people not wanting to fold up their strollers. But yeah, that is the reason that we always go and park to Mickey and Friends parking structure so that we do not have to fold our stroller up.
I have learned to love the Toy Story lot because of the shuttle. It doesn't sound like it's a good idea, but because, like you said, that tram gets so crowded in those two spots at the end of the night, and even in the beginning of the day, if you're there, at a very popular hour, say, 10 o'clock or so, trying to get into the park, you have to wait a lot of different trams if you don't feel like folding up your stroller. But the Toy Story lot, there is a lot less people trying to get on these shuttles, so you have a lot more time. You can fold it. Your kid gets a nice, comfy seat. It's an air-conditioned shuttle. More often than not, we have almost an entire shuttle to ourselves, so it's not really a lot of stress placed on trying to pack people into that area so more stroller carrying, families can get into that one row in the tram. So just another option, but we've really learned to love that lot.
Yeah. And the monorail, you can take strollers on the monorail. You do have to fold them up. So anything that's keeping you from folding your stroller up, you're going to have to take it out. So that's, but monorail, normally you're just heading to down Disney or back, and most people are taking the monorail as a round trip. And if you're doing a round trip, then you don't even have to take your stroller if you're willing to hold your kid while you wait. You can just, park it down at the stroller parking area. There's just a couple other things I wanted to touch on before we end, is character meet and greets with kids. It can go a lot of different ways when you take your kids to the park to meet those characters. And we lucked out with the Goof. He loved them. He really enjoyed them. I think if we were to take the twins right now, they haven't been since they were 6 months. I think if we were to take them right now, I'd have one that would be okay with them, and I have one that would definitely freak out and cry and not want to be anywhere near them. So as parents, you just need to be prepared that they may not want anything to do with those characters at all. And I've even heard some kids are okay with the like Mickey and Minnie, and then they hate the face characters, which most kids, it's the opposite. They're okay with the face characters because they're real people. But I've heard kids that don't like the face characters. So have you had any of your kids not like them?
Oh yeah, we've had it all. Liam is not a fan of my son, the baby. He's not a fan of pretty much any of the characters. He likes the face characters because they're people. But Mickey and Minnie, I cannot get him to acknowledge Mickey or Minnie. We always just kind of get him in the picture, like real quick, like here he is. Okay, there he goes, because he won't get anywhere near them. My oldest liked Mickey and Minnie and liked the face characters, but any other furry character, no. But yeah, different kids react different ways. My advice with that you didn't ask for, but I'm going to give it anyway, is to go with your kid. Don't, like, oh, give Mickey a hug, even though your kid is like screaming bloody murder. Like, like I said, just kind of pull him into a picture on the other side of you, and here's Mickey, and nobody's looking at each other, right? Like, Mickey isn't eyeing you from, like, the side. Just, keep them separate. There's your picture with Mickey, and it's not maybe what you dreamed of, but you still got it. It's there. Don't traumatize your child. Like, come on, man.
Exactly. And then on the opposite end of that, you get the kids that love them so much, like my oldest, that it's really hard to get a picture where they'll actually pose with them because they want to be looking at them and talking to them and hugging them and all that stuff. And I know as a parent, you want that perfect picture, but just go with it and get those pictures, that whole interaction, because that's going to be like one of the moments you're going to cherish. And don't plan on getting these perfect pictures with the character, no matter what happens with your kids, because they're already going to be overstimulated, overtired, and super excited. So they're probably not going to want to stand there and pose all pretty. Yes, you might get lucky and have some pictures that turn out amazing, but you just got to go with the flow on the picture part of that. That's all we have time for. Thanks for joining us. Once again, if you have a question for us and you're on YouTube or on one of our blogs, just leave it down in the comment section and we will try and get to it next time. If you liked what you heard, make sure to hit subscribe. And we're excited. We're now on iTunes and we are also on Google, and we're hoping to get on Stitcher soon. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.